Welcome to There's a Musical for That.
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 And if you like cellar dwellers
And trapdoor lovers.
there's a musical for that.
And if you like mermaids, crabs, and guppies, fly. There's a musical for that.
If you like fan of the opera fan fiction, there's a musical for that.
If you like falling in love and broken hearts, and establishing your dreams and then having them dashed, and duels, there's a musical for that.
And it's called Wicked.
And it's called Little Mermaid Live.
It's called Hamilton.
And it's called Dogfight.
And it's called Fan of the Opera 2, Love Never Died.
Welcome to There's a Musical for That.
Every day I look to heaven, and I know I must be strong. Time to face the future instead of dwelling on what's gone. Fought
Mona
the
wanted
hard
to start a
fight,
new life.
Stay till the end. It's time to move on with you, my closest friend.
But all that changed one fateful night.
I told him no, but he grabbed me and would not let go.
98% of cases never get convictions.
Although I screamed,
Sometimes we make poor choices after drinking. Those choices may disappoint someone.
Now, she must pick up the pieces of her life.
I feel we might be better off plea bargaining for second-degree sexual assault.
He raped me, and he beat me. And that's what happened.
She refused to be beaten.
Welcome to There's a Musical for That with Tiffany and Kayla. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Kayla.
And if you like poorly done, low-budget musicals trying to tackle real issues, well, there's a musical for that. And it's called Broken. Available on Amazon Prime. And it's not good. We don't recommend it.
It broke us.
We can do a preview of what we're going to rate it because it had 4.5 ratings on Amazon. So it was like, oh, let's just, watch this. High ratings. Well, I didn't look that much into it. It only had 2 ratings. So this story is about a girl who moves back to a city after being away for a while to take care of her grandma, and attends a party where she's been drinking, and she doesn't want to drive home. She came there with a friend, and her friend lets a stranger take her home, who then rapes her in her apartment. And it's about her healing kind of process after that. I can't tell you too much because I think I might have gotten halfway through. I'm not sure. And then I just started skipping through to get to the end because it's not worth it.
Yeah, I made it 30 minutes before I was like, oh, no. That's when the friend let her go with the guy, and I was like, oh, no.
So I made it a little bit farther than that. And the only reason I was like, I cannot have this be a sunk cost. We have to do a podcast on this because I've already, this will not be for nothing.
Yeah, so it's basically about her fighting the justice system to get justice, and then he ends up getting kind of street justiced.
Yeah.
I guess we can go through it more finely.
Oh, okay.
It starts in a hospital. Our main character, Mona, played by a woman named Christina Rose, is with her grandmother, and grandmother starts singing about "When I'm gone, carry on, don't mourn." That's an Eminem song.
Which was really not
She
relevant or
sang,
necessary
like,
to
8
the
bars.
plot or story.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm gonna be gone. Go back home, sweetheart.
Yeah.
I'm going goodbye. And then she died.
Sell the house.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yes. And then she dies. And then we see her packing up a truck, and there's a for sale sign, and we see her friend Helen with her, which they could have just shown what's her face, Mona, driving away past a sold sign, and that would have been
Which I
more
will
concise.
say that of all of the performances, the best
She
friend
was the
Helen was most definitely. She had the strongest voice. I just thought she actually did a really good job in the acting. I don't necessarily like the story or her
character.
Yeah, well, I mean, she made a very poor decision at one point, but beyond that, she was very supportive and did a really good job.
And the part at the end where she was like, "What's it like to watch someone die?" with like a smile on her face, and I was
Oh,
like,
I must have skipped over that part.
what?
I didn't.
But her name is Ashley Argota, and she's been in a lot of Nickelodeon TV shows.
Oh.
She was on Star Search, I'm guessing, for her singing, because she was the strongest singer.
Yes,
out
by
of all
far.
of them. Yeah, so her friend helps her move back to unspecified big city somewhere.
I'm sure you'd be able to find out because it does like an aerial view of a city. I just didn't recognize
I
it.
doubt that's where. I think they were on a soundstage somewhere. It was just
Well,
like
yes,
city.
but you could
See
try
what-
and determine
That's
what
fair.
that was and assume that that's the plot of
That's
the city.
And everybody has lots of brothers because she was like, my brother's going to be there, and somebody else was like, my sister and my brother. And
Yeah.
that's when I was like, I don't know who's related to who.
I know. So her
brother's the other Asian guy.
Yeah.
Which is what I figured out later because I thought So we're getting complicated.
Yep.
We don't want you
Whatever.
to watch this, so let's just tell you what happens.
Yeah.
So they get back to the big city and decide to go to a party with Helen's brother, who's friends with Mona's ex-boyfriend,
Yes.
who dated the girl who's throwing the party.
Susie? Whatever.
Carla. No, Carla was the sister of Sherry.
Sherry. There we go.
Sherry's the one this is complicated. Sherry is throwing a party, and Sherry used to date, what's the ex-boyfriend's name? Gosh. Greg? This is sad. Jason?
Jason? I think it's.
He just
I think
doesn't have a
Jason.
picture.
Jason.
Oh, gosh.
We're gonna go with Jason. We don't. It doesn't matter. You're not gonna watch it, so we're just gonna
Yes.
call him Jason.
Sherry is a person who can't hold down a job, and whenever she loses a job, she throws a party, and apparently these parties are so important that Mona just has to go so she
They're
can have a
big
good
deals.
reputation or something. They go to Sherry's party, and there's a mini love triangle because Sherry used to date Jason, who dated Mona in high school, and these people all are of indeterminate age. They look 30-ish. Some of them look maybe mid-20s. They say that Mona and Jason dated in high school, and it was quote-unquote so long ago. But there's no sense of
Right.
what happened or why they are so
Right.
affected by it, because she didn't want to talk to him.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you broke up so long ago. Well, I didn't get it.
But clearly, so Mona and Jason still have
Have
eyes
something,
for each other, but Sherry is kind of pulling them away to dance. So then Mona starts dancing with some guy named Dirk.
Dirk the Jerk.
Oh.
That was clever, eh?
My goodness.
Oh, wait, before that,
Do we have to go?
yes,
Okay,
because Dirk and Jason both sing about their parents' relationships.
Yes,
and
that's what I was gonna touch on.
Jason's parents had a good relationship, and Dirk's parents had an abusive relationship.
Yes, his dad beat his mom, so he was
And I
like,
guess raped her spousally.
yeah. And they both saying that they wanted relationships like their parents,
Which is not, no. People who grow up with toxic parents typically don't say, you know what I want? That's what I want. They typically do it unconsciously.
right. It was
This movie
was
doesn't know
poorly done.
how people work.
right.
Yes. This is not how people...
And that wasn't the only time he sang something like that. Of like, it wasn't some weird subconscious urge that he was giving into. Like, he was consciously like, no, I want to find a woman so I can beat and rape her. And it's like,
And she
oh,
has to listen to me.
yes,
And when they first introduced Dirk and his friend, I'm just going to say Jerk because...
it's fine.
Sure. They were like, I bet we're going to find some sluts at this party. And I was like, okay, well, these are the villains. And that's that.
Yeah.
And they were.
Yep.
And I was a little confused why they had the quote-unquote villain singing over top of the other guy. This is not how you do it. And I do want to say, when I first started watching this, I recognized that it was low budget and not that great. But if I learned anything in grad school, it was how hard it is to produce and make a thing. So it's like they took a lot of effort to make this. It's very hard to do it. But then they just pissed me off really bad. So then now I don't want to be nice anymore.
So yes, Dirk took Mona back to her apartment, and he dropped her off, and she was like, okay, you can go now, and he wasn't going to go. He's like, what, I don't get a thank you?
Do you want to talk about how the friend happened?
Whatever.
Because Mona got drunk and was like, yeah, I'm ready to go home. And her friend she came with, Helen, was like, well, we're going in opposite directions, which, number one, why not just let Mona stay the night at your house? number 2, don't say, well, I'll catch a ride with these guys and you just go with this random young sir.
Right.
So yes, back where you were.
So yeah, she had been drinking. She needed to go to bed. The Dirk dropped her off. She's like, okay, thank you for the ride. And Dirk's like, oh, I don't get a thank you or reward or whatever for my trouble. And she was like, no. And she opened the door.
She told him no.
Yes, opened the door, told him to get out, and he walked up to it and slammed it shut. And then they had this struggle, and she was...
It was like a tango.
No, I said no. No means no.
They were doing it like a tango. Like they were dancing.
Which I thought was offensive to tangos. I was like, how dare you?
It's offensive in general. It was reminiscent of the tango Maureen from Rent, which we're going to talk about.
Yes.
In 2 weeks or whenever the next episode of this comes out. But they are literally, she's singing in a staccato-ish like a tango, and they are like dancing a tango while he kind of throws her about.
They're trying to dance a tango.
I told him no. I said no.
Yeah. And so clearly he rapes her, and then it cuts to the next morning where...
Is it the next morning?
Or the next day.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
It was?
Yeah. Because you find that out in the trial.
Okay. I fast forwarded a lot. Oh, because he was saying, like, why did you wait?
Yeah, why didn't you go right then?
Her friend Helen takes her to the...
Yes, takes her to the emergency room where she has to wait. The staff
and it's, like, the worst thing ever.
It was... Whatever.
They're like, okay, you fill out this paperwork, you know...
Unless you just want to leave. You know?
Right, unless you just want to leave and forget all about this. That's not how things work in normal...
I'm not going to say...
society.
I'm sure some people may have been treated that way, but
right.
I think in general... most nurses and medical professionals are sympathetic. Not that there's not jerks everywhere you go in life, but it was just I didn't appreciate that.
Yeah, and so essentially they tell her, you know, you're going to have to wait a little while if you do want to stay, and Helen's like, she's been raped, and the lady's like, okay, well, there's a guy who was here first who, you know, broke his foot, there's another guy who did this.
Right.
She's just going to have to wait, and they act like it's crazy.
Right. Which I mean, I understand her having to wait because it's an emergency room and everybody's there for a reason, but the way that the nurse communicated it, like, was very...
the people who do not wait in an emergency room are people who are about to give birth and people who are literally like, my appendix is about to burst. I'm bleeding out, etc.
Right.
Yes. Then the doctor comes in and basically is like, acts like she... Doesn't he say, like, do you have a boyfriend or a husband, or was that at the trial? The doctor basically dismisses her.
The detective afterwards. So she does the rape kit stuff, and then I think it cuts to the next scene of her being in front of a detective to report this, and he's the one asking, like, do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a husband? Have you ever been married? And she was like, how is this relevant?
It's not.
It's not.
And then it was, were you drinking?
Yep.
Drunk people can't give consent anyway, which is what I wanted to say. This is going to carry through the trial. Drunk people cannot legally give consent to sex. I just want to say that. And if Dirk's defense was that he drove her home to be nice and he was sober enough to drive her home, and if she was that drunk as they're trying to say she was, she could not consent. So that's automatically rape. Automatically, by the law, that is rape right there.
I think the next scene... we're probably skipping scenes, but I don't care.
Please don't watch this regardless.
She goes to a lawyer because she wants him to go to jail for what he's done, and the lawyer's like, look, this is kind of a weak case. You should just... aggravated assault. Like, she says, let's not do rape, let's do this.
Aggravated sexual assault.
Aggravated sexual assault. At least it'll go on his record, but right now he has a clean record, so he's probably going to get away with it. And Mona's like, you're the one person who would be able to help me. And the lawyer's like, look, I'll do my best. All right, we'll go to court. Whatever.
And like I said before, this is not a weak case. This is very open and shut. She's drunk, he's not. She cannot consent. That is legally rape. The end.
Yes, but I'm not going to say that stuff like this hasn't happened.
Right, I think that it does. But for the sake of this movie not knowing the law, and for Kayla having seen Law & Order SVU many times.
Okay. You are speaking with a lot of authority, and I just don't think that the legal system is quite as...
It's not that cut and dry.
Yes.
I am very confident in that drunk people cannot consent, because when I was in ROTC, we had to do a sexual assault training, and they pushed that a lot. Like, hello, drunk people cannot give consent. This is rape, just so you know. I'm just saying, regardless of if he forced himself, quote unquote, or not, the fact that she was so drunk she couldn't drive and he was sober enough to drive, she can't consent.
I recognize what you're saying.
Whoever,
but
who did Nancy? No,
yes.
The writers Brandon and Monica. Okay.
No, totally recognize that, but also want to acknowledge that
Yes.
this very likely has happened to people.
Yeah, the
in
criminal
real
justice
life.
system is not.
Yes.
It's not fair, honestly.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
And Law and Order SVU does these things much better. So watch that instead. And sing along if you want. Do you want to fast forward to the trial?
Yeah, there's other friend, and Jason cares, and he feels bad because he should have given her a ride, and blah blah blah. And so they go to the trial, and Dirk gets off. Essentially, I really don't want to go into all the details.
We should. I mean, I don't know them. They basically called her a liar.
Yeah, they called it, and the defending
defense
attorney,
attorney.
the defense attorney was like, oh, why didn't you go to the emergency room right then? Why did you wait until the next day? And basically trying to say, well, she consented at the time, but then the next day she changed her mind and decided it was rape. Even though they had the rape kit, they had pictures of her bruised face.
I thought that was kind of an odd defense, especially since he said you asked him to leave your apartment, and she says, yes, I did ask him to leave. And he was like, so why, did he force you to get into the car? And she's like, no, he gave me a ride. I just thought it was weird that he was like, so why did you get in the car?
Right.
She can say no and get out at any point.
Right.
This is a very weak defense to have. And I didn't care enough to go back and look, but I wondered if his defense was going to be, well, she wanted it rough, and that's why I banged her up. Because there's no other reason for her to have those bruises and have that trauma if it was just regular sex, and then,
I don't remember them using that in the defense, because I did watch the whole trial part of it.
I just don't know why they wouldn't use that. And I think it would have been a lot more interesting if they had done something where it was fuzzy consent lines. Because there was this case recently with Aziz Ansari. Did you hear about that?
No.
Do you know who Aziz Ansari is? Did you watch Parks and Rec?
No.
Well,
I've seen like 3 episodes of it.
He's Tom
Oh,
Haverford.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The case?
No, I don't know about the case.
So a woman met him at some sort of Oscars party and ended up going back to his apartment with him, and they started kind of fooling around, and then at a certain point she was like, I don't feel comfortable with this, and he said, okay. And then I guess they started fooling around again, and he tried again, and she was... Essentially, it was like coercion. She felt coerced into it, but she never said no.
Mm-hmm.
So the lines got very blurry, and it was a whole big thing on social media of him being like, well, you never said no, so I didn't know you did not want to do it. And she was saying, well, my body language was that I didn't want to. I just said yeah. I feel like it would have been more interesting if there was a fuzzier line there instead of this girl is drunk and saying no, 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 no.
Yeah.
And this guy is just an evil guy because his parents, because all of her friends sing a song about how, I guess it was just how he was raised.
Yep.
Which
was...
That has a lot of implications about eugenics and...
So yeah, he gets off, and then the rest is about her trying
falling
to...
apart.
Yeah, she's broken, so she sings this song, Broken, which was... whatever.
It wasn't good.
It wasn't heart-wrenching. Like, I was just like, what?
It didn't help that she's not the greatest singer.
No, it did not help.
And she kind of stops coming to work. Judge Reinhold is her boss, who is in all of the Santa Claus movies. He's a famous 80s actor, but I don't know why he was there. Besides, they got Judge Reinhold because he didn't really do anything but tell her to stop using her phone, why did she keep pulling out her phone at work in the middle of the workday? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I don't know. There was a lot of things that I'm like, this is not relevant.
Yeah, so she stopped coming to work.
Maybe she went back to work and like he was there and it was to try to show that people around are supportive and like you can rebuild your life, but because I started skipping, I can't say whether that's true or not.
Well,
but I can see how that
yeah.
they could have tried to tie it in to be relevant. in that way.
I think it was because they got Judge Reinhold and they were like, let's just keep showing him. And he probably was like, I can be here for 3 days, maybe. And they were like, okay. Because there really wasn't a payoff. Her friend came looking for her at work, and he was like, I haven't seen her in 3 weeks.
Right.
And the friend's like, well, can you let her come back, essentially? And he's like, well, we had to fill the position. She wasn't here. And he goes, I wish her the best and tell her, I'm thinking of her, and I never saw him again.
Yep. Nor did I, because again, I skipped through the second half.
So she cuts herself off from her friends and work, and she stays in that apartment, which I thought was a little odd, that she did not move.
There was another scene. So Susie, what's her name? The girl who threw the party. Sherry, whatever. There was a scene with her and her sister where they got into the dynamic of Sherry was like, oh, that's never going to happen. Like, there's choices that you can make that could prevent this sort of thing. Which I did kind of think that was interesting, because that is a line of thought that people do have. So I appreciated that they tried to touch on that, and that the sister, Carla, was like, no matter what you do, it can still happen. Like, you can just find yourselves in those types of situations. So I actually did think that part of the communication was done okay, of like trying to communicate that message. It's not like the song was great, but
I think part of that communication was good. They didn't fully flesh it out.
No, they didn't fully flesh out anything.
Well, yes, because Carla, who is also a police officer, she is telling her sister, well, what if you go on a date with a guy, he's not really your type, you get home, does he deserve a kiss? And Sherry, says, well, did he pay for dinner? Yeah. And that's problematic right there. But then Carla says something else about it, and Sherry's like, well, what if he's a really nice guy, even though he's not my type? And I'm like, you just veered, off the path. That is not what this is even about. And I was hoping to hope, but I thought what they were going to do was have Dirk come back and end up raping Sherry, and then it was like, that's what I thought. And then it was like, see, now you see what happens. That's what I thought was going to happen.
Oh, my.
I thought it was going to be like, now you're going to learn a lesson. Because she invited him to her party, so I was like, maybe she knows him, and then it's going to be a bigger...
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't know what side to take, maybe, and then she's like, you're my friend, I don't, That's what I thought, but little did I know.
Yeah, but she did end up, she did take Mona's side. She did think he was a jerk. I just thought it was interesting that they touched on that perspective.
Yes, but they just didn't do it real well.
Yes, like trying to blame the victim type thing. And eventually Carla shoots Dirk and he dies.
So what happens is, to get closer to that, Dirk is in a bar after the trial with another blonde lady, and he is kind of harassing her, and she's like, I saw what you did to that girl. Yeah, I saw the trial, blah, 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 which, unless it's like a big trial, it's not going to be on TV. Whatever.
Yeah.
So the girl punches him. Did he need to be punched at that particular time?
I was okay with it.
She punches him, and then it starts a giant bar fight. And Dirk's friend Jerk gets left behind. Carla shows up and is like, see, your friend doesn't really care about you because he ran away. How do you feel now?
And anything he does right now is on you, because...
Yeah, which is not... We're supposed to be taking, responsibility for our own actions. So then the friend's like, he knows where that girl lives, which obviously, because he took her home. He knows where he lives, and he blames her for blah, blah, blah. So you see Dirk shuffling down the street saying, I'm going to get her, I'm going to get her, I'm going to get her. And Carla gets in her car, but somehow does not beat Dirk there, even though he was walking. And Carla keeps calling Mona, and she's in the shower and will not answer. But she hears the knock on the door, surprisingly, and says, can you get that? And it's what's
Jason
okay,
is what we're calling him.
Yes. He is at her house, and he opens the door, and as soon as he opens it, Dirk tackles him to the ground, and Dirk gets a knife out of the sink and starts slashing at him, and then Mona comes out in her towel and stares, and then Dirk gets shot, and it's Carla, and they're like, the nightmare's over now, everything's great. And that's not how life works. Also, the therapist is Lucy from Seventh Heaven.
Yep.
Beverly Mitchell, and Mona makes a comment the first time she's in her office, like, are you even old enough to have a license? Beverly Mitchell does not look very young. She looks her age.
I can say that she does have that baby face aspect, but she does look
She
her
looks,
age.
yes, aged. She doesn't look like a
Well,
smooth
how old
baby
is she
face.
now?
I think she's the same age as my sister Kendra. I know she's older than Jessica Biel because that was the thing. Like when they were filming Seventh Heaven, she was actually older. Even
I
though
didn't
she
know
played
that.
Younger. And Jessica Biel is like in 35 or something. She looks her age.
But I do know I
Yeah.
can relate to that experience in the workplace of, are you old enough for this?
Tiffany, but you look young, man.
I know, but I wanted something to relate to. Okay.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
Alright.
whatever you want to do is fine. I support you.
So yeah.
Everything's great. Mona starts wearing pastels again and stops wearing black, and I think they were trying to make that seem like it was some growth. And
Yes.
she hugs Beverly Mitchell.
So the reason I didn't like it is because most of the voices really just weren't that strong, except for the best friend Helen, and it was just kind of poorly done. Not kind of. It was just poorly done. Yes, I would rate it. What are we rating this out of?
I'm not done yet.
Oh,
I found it offensive.
carry
Roll
on.
your eyes.
I rolled my head, my entire head.
You rolled your eyes within your head also. But there was a part, this is the last, well, maybe not. There is a part where, I think it's when Carla's talking to Sherry about how sexual assault can happen to anybody at any time. And they essentially make a statement like, I've never met anybody who's been sexually assaulted. That's not very common. Okay, so 1 in 4 women are sexually assaulted in their lifetime. That's all I'm going to say. I feel like many people know someone who has been sexually assaulted or have been sexually assaulted themselves, and it's insensitive, and I didn't like it. I'll leave it at that.
And there's also, like, just being raped is not the only way to be sexually assaulted, and I think a lot of women just don't say or do anything because it's the norm in society, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And they would rather just not forget about it, but try to move on rather than actually.
Yeah. And even like
speak out.
the coercion thing, like the Aziz Ansari thing, people were very split over whether that was sexual assault or whether it wasn't. And I think that's become part of the larger conversation. Some people may not realize they have been assaulted. Like, say if they passed out drunk and, had sex with someone, maybe they don't realize that other person, like, should not have crossed that line if they were the sober one in the situation. And there was the subplot with Helen's brother's boyfriend revealing that he was sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
Which I thought Sherry was going to come to a realization.
That
also.
she had also been assaulted?
Because if she's throwing all these parties with all these weird people, I would imagine, with so many people in and out of your home.
Well, especially if you have the mindset that you owe someone because they bought you dinner.
I thought that she would maybe come to a realization of like, oh, maybe some situations weren't as cut and dry as I thought they were, or maybe something has happened to me actually. Because that was when the Olympic gymnast scandal happened, you know what I'm talking about? Gabby Douglas got some heat on social media for kind of victim blaming the other girls, but then later she admitted that she had also been assaulted, and she was like, that was kind of me speaking out of my pain and like talking about her. She was kind of saying that she wished that she had done different things and she took it out on the other girls because they were all in public and she hadn't publicly put herself out there yet. Which
is, I mean, that's unfortunate to victim blame, but I also completely understand that mindset because when you have been in that situation, it's very easy for your mind to go to, well, yes, I could have made different decisions. Yes, I did make decisions that led me here, but ultimately, someone mistreating you is not your fault.
Yes, it's always the rapist's fault for raping.
Yes.
They should not rape. Just like people should not steal and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
But there are precautions that you can make yourself feel safer, is how I feel about it.
Yes. While true, people can always make decisions to be safer. You can lock your doors so people can't just walk in, whatever. That doesn't give someone permission to come into your space. That's not what that is. That's not consent in and of itself.
I agree. What are we rating this out of?
Stars.
Sure.
I don't care.
0.
I will give it half a star for Helen's performance.
I will give it a quarter of a star, because it is hard to make your own thing. I understand that. I feel like I need to know the people's motives behind it better. Like, if they were people who were survivors of sexual assault and had a bad experience, and this is what their view of it was, I would be more lenient. If it's more of a cash grab, like, ooh, I know what we could do to, get people to...
Sexual assault is a hot topic right now.
Yeah, and if it was like a fake, half-hearted thing, I'm just going to give it a quarter of a star for just in general. Wasn't good. Please don't watch it.
Yeah. How long has this been so far?
30 minutes.
Oh, too long. I'm so sorry that you had to listen to
this. Most of it was me ranting.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. Next time we'll do a musical that we do recommend.
That's very true.
So, goodbye.
See you in 2 weeks.